role of leadership in it. I want to do it in a way that I hope is somewhat helpful to all of you in terms of defining how you can best exercise whatever leadership opportunities you have. When I came here for Admiral Zumwalt's memorial service, it was the culmination of decades of personal friendship. He knew me before anybody ever thought I could become president, and we became friends in a totally different, non-political way. I adored him and his wife and his children, and I was honored to give him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which he earned many times over. I recommend that all the young men and women who are here find a few minutes before you leave to go by and visit his gravesite here, because he has quite an interesting epitaph. There is only one word on his gravestone: reformer. He distinguished himself on destroyers in the Pacific and Swiss boats in Indochina. He rose to become the youngest chief of naval operations. He led the integration of the United States Navy and was deeply loved by the men and women who served under him. I remember when Hillary and I were about to leave the White House to come up here for his memorial service, my White House steward, who was an enlisted career Navy man, said to me that Buzz Zumwalt was the best we ever had because he was for us. And I have never forgotten that statement. I hope some of you, I can't resist saying this is too good to be true. I hope some of you get a chance to serve on the USS Zumwalt. It's the first of the Zumwalt class destroyers, which was launched last fall at the Bath Iron Works in Maine. I don't know if you've seen it, but it is an amazing looking ship. And it really does look like something out of a science fiction film. So it is altogether proper, so help me, I'm not making this up, that the captain's name is James Kirk. I wanted to talk a little bit about the job of reforming leadership. I was always impressed that after Admiral Zumwalt had ordered, as Chief of Naval Operations during the Vietnam era, the dropping of the defoliant Agent Orange in Vietnam by our airplanes, when he later learned that it caused, among other things, cancer to those exposed to it, including his beloved son, Elmo. He spent the rest of his life trying to balance the scale and do right by the people who were still surviving, who were affected by it, and by the families who were affected by it. He got Hillary and a number of other people in our administration involved in doing something in the 1990s. And he had an interesting take on this word, reformer. Sometimes it means to start something. Sometimes it means to keep a process going. Sometimes the very lucky get to finish an important job. But it is important that everybody realize that you have to do what you can at the time you live and serve. I remember once someone asked Mother Teresa, whose orphanage I had visited in Calcutta, whether it made her feel like a failure that no matter how many children's lives she saved, within blocks of her orphanage, there were many times that many living on the street without enough to eat, almost certain to have a shortened life. And she said something we would all do well to remember. She said, "I was not called to succeed. I was called to be faithful." And to some extent, any endeavor that we undertake, success is important. I like to win as much as the next person. but you can never fail to do something because you can't do everything. I was recently in Derry in Northern Ireland to observe the remarkable ongoing miracle of the Irish peace process. And I walked across a bridge in what is the most Catholic of towns in Northern Ireland, and the biggest supporter of the peace process, with John Hume, who won the Nobel Prize for advocating nonviolent resolution of it. The bridge connects the old British military community to the main downtown part of the city. And it symbolizes the bringing together of former opponents. Believe it or not, unless you know about the Irish peace process, you might not know that it still hasn't been finished. 18 years after we started with the ceasefire and then passed the Good Friday Accord in 1998, and in the middle of my second term, there are still issues relating to how to resolve past problems and how to deal with the identity conflicts which continue with what flags are used where and how the marching season of parades is done. There's still things to be done, but nobody wants to go back to conflict. You may have seen in the press in the last couple of days the observation in Rwanda, the 20th anniversary of the end of the Rwandan genocide, which in the bare space of 90 days claimed 10% of the population of the country, most of them being killed by machetes. We are now almost 20 years since the end of the conflict in Bosnia, and 15 years this year since the end of the conflict in Kosovo. There remain problems, but the process is going on. And in the information age, when we know more than ever before and have more influence than ever before, we'll be given more opportunities than ever before to make good things happen in the face of more opportunities than ever before for bad things to occur. And I predict to you that what will happen is there will be more partial victories. And I can tell you at my age that those partial victories are worth way more than total defeats. So the obligation of leadership in the information age is to claim the victories where they are and to try to keep the process going so someone who follows you will be able to build on it.